Science is going to be a tourist stop also. Please sit.
Thank you, Nirmala. So we don't need introduction because we are all the members of the same family. So whatever she said is not because of me, it's because of our students. We do my work and they give credit to me. So all the awards, everything is my students' work. So I'm thankful to them. So I know that you are hungry. So you are having a syndrome called LES. That's called low energy syndrome. Right? So therefore I don't want to push anything. I have a few slides to run through. I think I take around 7 minutes max. That's it. I finish it off. And if you want more, we will talk later. And I also have one more person who will be helping me later. But today I think it's very tight. Instrumentation engineer. So what we thought initially is to share some essential. Yeah, essential features as well as principles of good laboratory practices.
Table is
So this is basically focusing on the scholars as well as researchers working on biology, but that doesn't mean that it is not useful for the social scientists who are working in a different domain altogether. But basically, conduct of research, that's what we thought. That's what Directorate of Postgraduate Studies is key, and so that we will not get into trouble later. I'm just flashing some ideas here. Maybe we can talk about later. So what is that we are talking? We are talking about a word called GLP. Professor Robothama keeps saying about one word, shortened versions of the sentences, things like that. So we also use this word called GLP. So how many of you are aware of GLP? Especially PhD scholars must be knowing, right? Or you don't know? So GLP is nothing but, it's basically a kind of framework, you can say, and there is no pointer here. Okay. So it's a framework within which laboratory studies are planned. That doesn't mean only lab studies. It can be field studies also. Performed, monitored, reported, and archived. So that's basically kind of research, planning, execution, and documentation put together forms GLP. And sometimes it's also confused with people say standard laboratory safety practices, which is also component GLP, but it's not just like wearing lab coat and safety goggles. That is not just GLP. GLP includes much more than that. The proper planning. Those who have done some work already in masters, they know statistical principle using randomization, replication, local control, all kind of stuff that actually forms a part of GLP. So it is Professor Robothama's place evolved some time ago in 1970s, and basically this was focused towards clinical safety data, and therefore it was probably evolved for the benefit of Food and Drug Administration, and when they discover new drugs and things like that, but it has become common for all of us now. We are interested in so-called research. So I'm not going to the background details of it. So then we have now set guidelines, and all these good laboratory practices are to be followed. And in our laboratory conditions, sometimes it's difficult to follow exactly that is listed in the textbook, but then there is always possibility to make sure that we capture a good data set, and we probably are in a position to generate good data, which might get you a paper which our dean and others were saying that high impact journals. So poor laboratory practice are found in many places, and sometimes it is because of several issues. Say for example, the equipment may not be calibrated, therefore the captured data is not good, and you may have the accounting as well as test system and things like that. There are many more. I just listed a few. there could be complex situations where you end up in getting data which is not in line with the GLP. So I just want to tell you everybody that there are several international organizations now, and if you are aiming for high-end research publications and good quality theses and job opportunities, all these GLP guidelines are to be followed. In fact, some journals now, they also ask for data in the form of video. So since I am editor of some journals, I also know that they want supplemental data, machine output, whatever that is coming out of the machine, that should be saved and that should be present to the editor when you want to publish. So that is possible only when you actually stick on to GLP guidelines. And I again tell you, I don't want to discuss more now because you are having the syndrome of LES now, low energy syndrome. What's happening? Maybe low battery. Yeah. So you know that what is food? So they also have certain kind of abbreviations again. You have GMP, GCP, and GLP line. So we will not go to those details now, but then I just want to know that there are international standards for everything. And okay. So what is the objective of our GLP basically? Objective of GLP is to make sure the data are a true reflection of your experimental output, and that is obtained in your master's or PhD study. That is our objective. Make sure that it is not kind of accidental data. You have to make sure the data can be traceable, and the experiment what we do, especially I am talking with respect to data collection, biologists or non-biologists, it should accept international standards. And some of the experiments what we do also should meet the requirement of protection of human health as well as ecosystem environment. All that forms the form of GLP. So when you do HGMO like experiments, have you heard of GMO? So molecular biologists, biotechnologists are doing a lot of genetically modified organisms. So there are certain guidelines, set guidelines, that is also part of your GLP. So it is not just to the laboratory, the work conducted in the laboratory as well as outside the laboratory in the field or greenhouse or data collection from the farmer's field all come under the scope of GLP, and make sure that you have the proper GLP guidelines. You can refer, or if you want some help, you can come to me. I can also share some information. And this GLP, the purpose is to make sure the data is repeatable, reliable, and respected by, as I mentioned, the scientists global. Everybody should be accepting. And while collecting data, you have to make sure that the resources as well as all the other things which you are using for your experimentation are comparable, are of high quality, and the results what you get is also of good quality, and that should also give mutual respect and recognition so that others can repeat and use the data for their purposes. So there are several key factors. Again, I told you we have a limited time. I cannot go to the details. So the key factors of GLP also includes the how you behave in the lab, working in a group, maintaining proper lab records. There are details about that, how to maintain lab records also. We do not have time. Handling of certain chemicals and biologicals. You have to go by case to make sure that you don't get into accidents. And of course, all other things including safety disposal and standard operating procedures which is followed in a particular laboratory. So that means you need to have a kind of mentoring before you actually get into this self-study, as well as some kind of the other support to make sure that you don't get into accidents. At the same time, you follow the guidance. The silly things are also matters. So the lab coats in Indian labs, most of the labs, I did work in US as well as Canada and European laboratories as a visiting scientist. There are certain guidelines. If you do not follow, you are fired. a postdoc was fired. I don't know whether you heard of the word called postdoc. What is that? Postdoctoral researcher was asked to vacate the lab just because he just walked out of the radioactive lab without taking out his apron. His job was terminated. So this is in the place where I worked. I actually got to know that. So that serious it is, but they don't tell you again and again. You should be aware of it, what you are doing. Follow the GLP guidelines, then start doing the experiment. Nobody will follow that. So it could be wearing a simple lab coat. And whatever will be the situation, make sure that lab coat are must when you handle certain so-called careful experimentation on certain chemicals. So make it a habit when you enter the lab. And at the same time, certain things that is self-protection. Lab coat may be for your protection as well as to save the experiment material. But you also make sure that you protect yourself. And these are certain things which are essential in certain microbiology and molecular biology laboratory experiments.
One second.
Yeah, so I'm just going through some of the images, what is available in our lab. This is from your own seniors who work in our lab, and I just took some pictures to show you that. So protective gloves must be worn for certain situations, and make sure that these gloves are not used everywhere. So although we don't use in our lab certain carcinogenic chemicals like yttrium bromide now, so when you handle those things, if you touch the instrument with the same gloved hand, you will be contaminating the entire area. So from that angle, you should be aware what is that you are doing, and the disposal as well as removing the contaminated material is very, very important. You cannot throw wherever you want and make the entire area dirty. So these are the small things, but that matters. And you have to make sure that some of the things are followed not only for good laboratory practice point of view, for the safety of you as well as family. You may be going and hugging a kid in the family and you simply transfer the contaminants whatever you carry. So these are all the small examples people do quote, and I just want to make sure that the laboratory practices what I just flashed are to be followed, and working in a group is must. Sometimes we don't have the habit of working in a group. Make sure that you develop a good friendship, and so that you can prevent the accidents and whatever things, the emergency first aids and all other things which are available when you are in a group, probably you can help each other and save each other. So some of the labs do have in our university these facilities. If you do not have, probably you can also request wherever you feel like it is essential based on the nature of work what you have it, especially fire extinguishers if you are using some kind of highly inflammable material. So I always feel that the accidents, lab accidents are common. It happened to me also. I was working in a laminar air flow. That there are options where you have a pedal with a Bunsen burner. While closing the lab, there are certain guidelines. 6 o'clock close means in Netherlands it happened when I was working in Wageningen University. So you are supposed to get out of the building before 6 o'clock. So I was not knowing, I was working, accidentally pressed the pedal. Suddenly there was an alcohol while sterilizing. You can imagine what would have happened in the laminar air flow. How do you extinguish the fire? You will have a fire alarm now, and you have to pay for it, or there could be major accident. What will you do? So common sense matters. I was wearing the apron, so I could push the apron or pull out the apron and make sure that everything is fire is extinguished without touching any kind of fire extinguisher. So sometimes you have to practice common sense, why common sense works, and accidents are common, you can't predict that. So working with others and in a group, and I say these things I don't want to highlight again, certain volatile compounds, all these things you can study yourself because information is available everywhere. Mouth pipetting, these are all the things which are not to be followed, and make sure that certain units that are there in your laboratory, especially when you are handling molecular biology, that this person is opening and working here, and you can imagine what would have happened to the other materials which are stored inside. So these are all the common sense. Make sure that you follow the lab guidelines so that your instruments are protected as well as the experiment is not destroyed. So another thing what we have Indian mindset is that the moment I see something, I will start using it. If I find a car key, I will go and start the car, probably I will start driving. Then you realize that there is no brake for that car. What do? You have already accelerated and now you are running at a speed of 40 kilometers per hour. But Indians are also good at managing the crisis. So we are good crisis managers. So let's not do similar kind of situation in the laboratory, because this instrument Rajesh is sitting here, and I am also not able to touch the machine, although I know how to handle this machine. So they say that without understanding the principle of the machine, without using the user manual, you cannot go near to that machine. What does it mean? It means this machine is 1.2 crores. And second, forget about it, you may have sufficient money. The other person is in the queue to use the machine. And he has designed a beautiful experiment. It's not just for the sake of GLP, it is for the interest of others also. So from that context, make sure that you have to understand the principle of the machine, and there are several set of guidelines, tools available now online. Professor Raghuvattam just mentioned, you have chat, GTP or GPT, whatever you have, all kinds of things are available. So I request you, even the smallest of small machines, make sure that you understand the principle before you handle it. Otherwise, don't touch. And you take a kind of lesson from your seniors, also go through the guidelines, make sure that you harvest the maximum out of it and sell the machine for others. So another accident common, it happened in our lab as well as others, is centrifugation. You do not know how to handle the centrifugation or centrifuge system. It's okay with a mini spin or a small spinning device. When you go to the floor model, the accidents are very severe. It can actually destroy the entire building and damage the building and instruments, of course. So in addition to that, you have laminar red flow and you have autoclaves. These are all very dangerous systems. I want everybody to use the machine, at the same time make sure that before touching the machine you understand the principle, operating principle, and do's and don'ts. Whatever the facility you have, make sure that you respect that. And make sure that you use the right instrument for the right purpose. Sometimes whatever that is available we try to use it, please don't do that. That's not a good GLP component. Your GLP component includes understand what is, every instrument is actually designed for a particular purpose. Use the right instrument for the right purpose. Ask your seniors, make sure that you don't mess up things. Okay? So, well, you have to make sure that when you're working in a group with a big labs or a small labs like ours, there are limited resources. Make sure that you protect others' experiment as well as your experiment. And these are the common things which we see in our own lab. This image, all the images what I have taken is from my lab. So you see that there is a bottle here, and all kind of things are done. And laptop is there, and the person is working there. That's fine, it's okay. But if it is a precision experiment, somebody is playing with the RNA extraction or some other things. So you actually have contaminants entering into your food chain also, as well as killing your experiment. So make sure that, although it's silly, but that's very important. Make sure that you remember. And foremost important in our laboratory experiment is the lab records. And we have seen Director of Postgraduate Studies also very keen with respect to your lab journals or lab records. Make sure that you have all the components entered, when you did it, how you did it, what is the expected outcome, some kind of conclusion, title, objective, everything needs to be mentioned, and so that it should be written in your own handwriting. Tomorrow if somebody challenges your data, you have a proof. This is actually the proof, not the paper what you publish. The proof is here. And I have few examples. The data generated in 2008, published in 2010 or so. In 2018, somebody challenged. So that fortunately there was an observation book available. We could address that issue. Otherwise, you will have serious problem. You may lose your job also if somebody challenges in a greater way and if the discovery is being used for multiple purposes. So please try to understand all these things are very important. And I think we will probably talk again later in some of these issues wherever you get a chance. And once you are done with the lab book belongs to the principal investigator or your supervisor, or it's a product of the university. And you can have a copy because this book should be saved for our future reference or records. So you can have a backup data, and you can also use the data instantaneously for analyzing and summarizing, so that if you want to repeat the experiment instantaneously, that also gives us an option. Okay? So the data should be recorded directly, promptly, accurately, and legibly, so that it can be reproduced and nobody can challenge your data. And proper date should be mentioned, and of course your signature is also important. And in the laboratory, those who are using these kind of chemicals, you see these kind of symbols, different symbols on your containers or bottles or a storage bin. What is that first one? Huh? Second one? PhD scholars can definitely help us to think. So sometimes it may not be written, but you should be aware of it if you are a true researcher. So these kind of things I want you to, the moment you start planning your experiments, to follow and make sure that you follow whatever that is required, radioactive, oxidizing, explosive. So that means you have to take extra care. How to handle explosive chemicals, that means you have to take a lesson. And radioactive, say for example, you cannot handle radioactive material. In our lab, in our university, we don't have certified radioactive labs also. There is an officer called RSO, Radiological Safety Officer. So he has to go through a training, he has to undergo a training, he should be generally a faculty, and he can only allow you under casual supervision, careful supervision, you can do those experiments. So there are certain things which you are interested to say. For example, your experiment involves using C14 or carbon 14 labeled. That is crucial. Then you should know how to handle those things. That means you have to go through a lesson. So I always believe that everything is possible in this beautiful campus because you have neighboring institutes to go and collaborate and do the things, but then you should be aware of the safety guidelines and good laboratory practices. So there are some issues, as I mentioned, life forms, bacterial and fungal strains. There are so-called genetically modified organisms, and all these things come under certain guidelines. Who is fixing the guidelines? There are certain guidelines to handle those infectious organisms, genetically modified organisms. Are you aware of those guidelines? Who is fixing those guidelines? And you have to follow those guidelines. PhD scholars. MSc may not be knowing. PhD scholars. Biotechnology students in here? There is no biotechnology? So I always believe that, as Professor Raghukumar said, US Bangalore fellows are more knowledgeable than us. Okay. So if you are a biotechnology PhD scholar, you must be aware what are the safety guidelines and who is actually giving the riders or guidelines to manage genetically modified organisms. Who is giving that? Huh? It's okay if it is wrong answer, no problem. But I just want to tell you that these things are under Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, and we have a committee called IBSC. Have you heard of this? Institute Biosafety Committee, and your GMOs and those kind of organisms must pass through that committee. The experiment what you are going to do should be submitted to that committee. Once that committee approves, then only you can carry out. You may not be doing, but your supervisor should do that. And please make sure that these IBSC guidelines are met, and that is also part of our GLP system. And in simple, I want to tell you that GLP is not just wearing a lab coat or doing something. It is comprehensive activity which involves daily attendance also. That's what Director of Postgraduate Studies wants. How regular you are, how organized you are, all that forms a part of your GLP. I'm sure with this kind of training you can capture more data and more information, organize your experiments, and make sure that you work with others and keep the area, especially the working area, neat and clean, and help each other and learn, enrich your knowledge, and make sure that all of us are benefited. Okay, so although I have some story to add on since we have limited time, I will not talk. If you have any questions, you can write to me or ask our friends, seniors, and they will let us know. Okay, thank you very much.
ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಲಾಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಅದೊಂದು ಇದಿರೋದು ಸ್ಲೈಡು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಹಾಂ
Thank you very much, Dr. Nagaraj, for enlightening the students about good laboratory practices. And we have come to the almost end of this orientation many of you yawning and even don't have patience to listen to vote of thanks also. Before that, I want to take few minutes. If you answer my questions properly. How many of you use computers, systems? Raise your hands, please. Quickly, otherwise you will be stuck here only. How many of you use systems? All of you? Raise your hands. It's not just half hand. That means you are just opening the system and you have to raise it. How many of you have access to internet? Yes? Only if you are raising and if the faculty are raising, then I'll have to start with academic regulation and information, this book. We have to go through this now. Now you answer my second question. How many of you have access to internet? This is the real answer. And how many of you go to library? Then I'll have to again start with this. So, see, you have been listening since morning and many of the information available in this academic information and regulation, which is the information and the regulation that is necessary for you to carry out your studies, complete your studies in another 2 years for PG students, MSc students, and maybe another 3 years for doctoral students. All the information and regulation is available in this academic information and regulation book. Right now we have not given it to you, we agree, but it will be provided to you later. But more convenient thing is you can access that in our website, www.usbangalore.edu.in. If you open the home page, you can see academics, and you go to PG studies under that, postgraduate studies. Click on that. You will get this page. Then don't stop it there, scroll down. You will get all that information there regarding all postgraduate studies. Maybe you will have that academic information and regulation in that itself. So whatever is written in this book regarding starting from admission to this university and the courses that you have to register, how many courses, how many credits, how to complete those courses, and your thesis work, the regulation of credit hours regarding thesis, and even preparation of thesis. We have information in that. Nowadays, many of the theses are being returned to the students because they are not able to write the thesis properly as per the guidelines. So all those information are available in the website itself. So please, if you don't want to listen to this lecture, which has 49 pages and all in this book, you will have to go through that website on your own. Otherwise, again one time we are going to assemble here to listen to this. Then you will have to do it on your own, and I am warning, you have to necessarily get acquainted with the regulations of the postgraduate directorate, because towards the end, when you submit your thesis, you will come out with so many problems which is very difficult to solve. So all these regulations are meant for you to conduct your academics very smoothly in this university. And this is not a very simple book. It will not be so easy to understand like how you understood the good laboratory practices. But this book you are reading whenever it is required. All the regulations, whenever you are registering for a semester, you go through about the coursework that you are registering. How many core credits you have to register, whether it is required for you or not. When you are writing your thesis, refer this book, how to write thesis. Guidelines are given in the website. So please follow all those instructions before you take up your semester, you register for your semester, or you take up your research, or seminar, or colloquium, or you register for teaching assistantship. All these have to be understood by you, not at a time. Whenever the time comes for that, you have to go through this book. And when you go to library, you read the books. You don't study them. You study for exam. You try to inculcate everything at a time. So, with this academic regulation, information also it is like that. Whatever is concerned at that day, at that point of time, you go through the regulation and try to understand and go accordingly. Then the problems will be less. Otherwise, it is going to be very difficult. And in cases some students are not able to even complete their degree also. So please follow the academic regulation. And some of the instructions are. And one more request is, we have sent a Google form to you all to fill up and send your information. That is going to help the directorate and as well as you people in filling some forms, and whatever the required information, you can take it from the Google form itself with respect to your details. So please fill the Google form and send it to our directorate. In our directorate, we have Dean PGS and Its officer, and we have assistant registrar to look into all the academic activities. And then we have assistant account section where we have assistant controller and even assistant to them to look into the scholarship, fellowship, and other financial matters. So approach right people to get right information. The single slide will be there. Last slide now. Not any questions. I have one more slide. So we have many people working in our directorate. We have assistant registrar, we have superintendent, and we have case workers to look into the queries of MSc students and PhD students, who will be working almost throughout the day and beyond the office hours also. This is 7 o'clock. So kindly approach the right people, and we should be thankful to them also, because all the time they are helping the students in solving their problems and assisting all your academic activities. So kindly acknowledge, we would like to acknowledge them also. Please approach them and take the time. Thank you very much. So coming to the last part, first of all, I would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor for permitting us to have this orientation program today. And he has given valuable suggestions to you all very critically, and even our Director of Education has critically analyzed the issues, and he has put it for you to follow it so that you will complete your degree very smoothly. And we would like to thank our Chief Guest also, who presented very well and gave many ideas to you how to be successful in your life. And thanks to our Professor Dr. Nataraj Kharwat, who enlightened you about good laboratory practices. And ultimately, I would like to thank our Dean Postgraduate Studies, who was behind this program, and he made it successful by organizing it today. And I would also like to thank all the staff of the Directorate of Postgraduate Studies who supported us, and even the faculty, and more importantly, the students. It is for you. We are always with you. Thank you very much.
You have to make someone else to sit. I don't want you to operate my slide. I don't like that. So JP was there, no?
Some convention center another program is convention center program online program. ಸೈಡ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟರಲ್ಲ ಓಕೆ